The next reason why I'm highly critical of Keir Starmer is that he's been militantly agnostic, or he's been extremely unclear about whether he would pursue the same Labour policies that were in our 2019 and 2017 manifestos if he wins the leadership, which he obviously now has. When he was asked in an interview, he wouldn't for definite say that he would continue those policies. He actually called the manifesto directly after we lost in 2019. He called it a policy overload, and that we couldn't see the wood for the trees. Now, that's just basically newspeak for we went too far to the left. Give them crumbs, but don't give them anything substantial. Because anything more than a few, pay rises or a bit of a minimum wage hike will mean that we can't get in power. Now, that tells me everything I need to know, because, if he won't carry out a massive nationalisation programme, nationalising our energy firms, utilities, water, railways, transport, etc. If he won't carry that out, and if he won't pursue a massive Green New Deal, and he won't push employee ownership, and if he won't go after the legal but completely immoral tax avoidance by these massive companies, if he won't implement fundamental change that, in my view, doesn't go far enough, but is a stepping stone in those manifestos, if he won't implement those policies, by and large, and he just gives us a very watered down Tory-light alternative, then the British people will not have a real alternative. I do believe there is a real feeling in Britain, under the surface, that people, when you ask them on individual issues, like do you believe in nationalised railway, do you believe in a fully free at the point of use single-payer healthcare system, do you believe in employee ownership and employee control of workplaces and so forth? Do you believe in increasing corporation tax and taxing wealth more? Do you believe in nationalising our broadband services and making it free at the point of use for all citizens in Britain, when broadband is such a fundamental utility that it's a crime that parts of Britain have poor access? Well, when people are asked these questions, overwhelmingly, they say yes to them. They broadly support socialist policies. And this has been shown in research done by many different companies, some recently by BMG Research, but it's not unusual, because the same is true pretty much all across Europe and in the United States. When people are asked on these individual issues, they broadly support socialist tendencies, but when it's framed in a different manner, like are you a communist or are you a socialist, they might say no, because those terms have been vilified. On the actual issues, I believe people are much further to the left than is commonly discussed. So I believe that we have to be a real alternative. Now, just last night, George Osborne, the previous Chancellor of the Exchequer, a total crackpot capitalist attacked on. He very lucidly described what Keir Starmer now represents. He basically said that all the crackpot Marxists, so Jeremy Corbyn and his shadow cabinet, have gone. So what that means is a real alternative to capitalism is now gone from Labour with Starmer in power. And And now we can get back to having a lively debate and the Labour Party holding the government to account, because apparently we didn't hold them to account for the past 5 years, which is total BS. Jeremy Corbyn did hold them to account, but of course he was extremely vilified by the media and by half of the Parliamentary Labour Party, who I've discussed in the previous video, are much further to the right than Jeremy Corbyn, and much further to the right than the general membership. So he basically explained, and he's correct essentially, that with Starmer in power, they would envisage, the establishment, the media, would envisage that there is now not a credible alternative, that you're basically getting Tory light, which is what they want, of course, because they're right-wing crackpot capitalist attack dogs that couldn't give a toss about working people, couldn't give a toss about changing this system. They want this dog-eat-dog, highly hierarchical, highly unequal disaster that is capitalism, and they want this system to subsist. Of course, I don't think Keir Starmer is George Osborne, and I don't think they have the same goals, of course. I think he does have some mild social democratic tendencies, but the fact he's been critical so early on of the manifestos tells us that under his premiership there will not be the same kind of alternative than you got with Corbyn. You're potentially only going to get very mild changes, and we know what happened when we pushed mild changes in 2015 with Ed Miliband, who got destroyed by the Tories. And in fact, in 2015, many socialists on the left voted for the Green Party because on many key issues, Labour was in the same category as the Tories, unfortunately. And the Green Party did offer a real alternative platform. When Jeremy Corbyn was elected, he, of course, pushed the party where it should be, much further to the left, which is why we saw a massive increase in membership and this whole movement which united many socialists and communists on the left to support Corbyn. But we're not going to get that. The evidence so far, overwhelmingly, is that we're not going to get that with Keir Starmer. The next reason why I'm critical of Keir is his shadow cabinet and frontbench appointments. He's put many Blairites and right-wing MPs in those positions. Now in the shadow cabinet we've got people like Rachel Reeves, Nick Thomas-Symonds, Ian Murray. These have all been critical of Corbyn, and many would regard as on the centre-right of the party. He's put them in the shadow cabinet, although he has kept Rebecca Long-Bailey and Andy MacDonald, who are Corbynites, if you will. But it's a much further to the right and to the centre. It's a much further to the centre-right shadow cabinet than before. There's no Richard Bergen, Ian Lavery, Barry Gardiner, Dawn Butler, Diane Abbott. Instead we have people like Wes Streeting, who's been given a shadow minister role, Jess Phillips, Liz Kendall. These are all to the centre-right of the party. They represent the Blairite wing. And he's telling you, Starmer is telling you, that if you thought he was going to maintain a broadly left-wing shadow cabinet, then you were in cuckoo land, because he's going to push in a lot of these Blairite MPs from the centre and centre-right of the party. um,